Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Discover a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of But Am I Wrong? Starring two people who shockingly never have been wrong.
Whoa.
Don't actually hold the applause. Applaud unless you're driving in your car. This is But Am I Wrong? A podcast where we talk about our own personal hot takes, situations that are happening in our life, and we're wondering if we are in the wrong. Then we also have another segment. Well, that segment is called But Am I Wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Then we have another segment called But Are You Wrong? Where you, listeners, you write in submissions about things happening in your life situations, and you ask us, the all-knowing sages of wisdom and
The wizard search.
the whiz.
It's
the
like Doctor
wizards?
Strange. Like Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah. The wizards of right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The morality police.
And all the different verses, multiverses.
The multiverse, the Eminem multiverse, the multiverse of Eminem.
Mhm.
We tell you if you're the villain in your situation. And then finally we have But Are They Wrong? AKA Rachel of the Week, AKA Wote of the Week, where we nominate person, place, or thing in pop culture, the zeitgeist, current events, who we think, or we know deserves to be publicly shamed on our podcast. And we've decided to give a platform to all of us saying, boo, tomato, tomato, tomato. I will never get over that audio.
That's a great piece of audio.
A great, wonderful piece of content, because there is something so perfect about when you're saying words that like, boo, I'm throwing tomatoes at you, but with the like blasé, I don't give a shit, don't give a fuck attitude. And then you can take out the video component and it's just audio, and it still hits the same.
The way that it said tomato, 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 you can just hear the tomatoes being hit on the person.
You can hear the wind up.
Mhm.
Like you can hear like the whole process of like tomato in the hand, wind up, flying through the air, and when it makes contact. It's just like, it's cathartic just to like listen to use it.
Yeah.
In everyday life.
Thank you.
I don't
Not
know
you.
what happened to my voice. No, that something happened funny to my
You're
voice.
having it crack like mine was last week.
Yeah, I can't have any more of that, because now that it's finally not so hot anymore, I no longer feel like I'm going through menopause, and I don't want the opposite end of the spectrum with my voice cracking.
Well, it happens.
Shit happens. Oh, also forgot the best part of this podcast besides us, and you should watch the video of us because we're absolutely stunning, and that's only for $1 on Patreon, because we are cheap, desperate, and giving.
I am not the first to.
You're actually not. I'm cheap. I'm thrifty. I'm not cheap, because there is a difference.
Yeah. You're budget conscious.
I'm budget conscious. So I'm budget conscious. Someone else fucking orders like lobsters at her fucking freezer. And it's not me, it's Melisa. If you couldn't tell. Look at her. Of course, like
you can't tell right now.
No. There is a thing. There, like, you have like, you know how some people have this thing, which I think is just like, it's kind of weird because someone used it as a compliment to me once, and I was like, whatever I am displaying to you, you should just know that this compliment makes no sense because I'm not that. Someone's like, oh my God, you're like the original clean girl aesthetic. And I go, clean? not to fulfill the white girl stereotype, but like, I'm not the most showered person in the world. But it's like this whole thing of like, oh my gosh, like clean girl kind of aesthetic. And I think it just means that you like don't wear like, you don't have like block eyebrows. Like you don't really fill in those things dark. And it's like more like natural kind of like makeup and clothes. It's like less like done up or whatever. But it's like people have described to me like, no, it's like an aura. Like it's a vibe. Like you, no matter what you're wearing, no matter how like, you know, you could feel like so schlubby. Like you and Kyle, but I mean, Kyle has like he's got like a little bit of I love him to death. He's got a little bit of like a white trash, like little flair there. But both of you, any time of day, no matter what, I go, those people are bougie. Like there's just like an expensive aura around you.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
It's a wonderful thing. And you don't have the Kyle's aspect of it, which like never once in my life, if I saw you putting chopped up zucchini as a garnish on top of a casserole that you made with buffalo chicken nuggets.
Please stop. I'm disgusted.
And
I just ate. I might
flaxseed chips.
I might throw up.
I would never. I would commit you. I would have I see Kyle do that. I don't even flinch. There's a difference. I sat and watched you make lunch like it was Benihana. He makes food. I take the spatula and I say, I will make you something, but you cannot make this in my home. He was banned from using my oven after a bit. I was like, he used to come over with groceries. He goes, I'm going to make this thing. And I'm like, what is it? And he would show me like a combination of 4 pictures. And then he goes, but I saw this video and this is how they did it. And like, this was this. It's like all of these things together. I go, this does not exist. This is not real. You were not paying attention when they were making this. You're not allowed to make this here. Not in my home. Anyways, love him to death though. He works on it. He tries. So, did I tell you the best part is that you vote? I don't think I even got through all of that.
We started.
So what I was saying, you get to, as the audience, the listeners, you get to vote on who you think was wrong in each of the situations. So this episode or these episodes of this podcast go up on Thursday. And then tomorrow, Friday, we release our Fisting Friday, where we read the results from last week. And then sometimes people like will message with like updates or if we had like clarifying questions, and we just like have a little extra bonus talk stuff about that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see if you were aligned with us, aligned with the rest of the audience. And yeah, that is our podcast.
All right. So now it's time for But Am I Wrong?
Melissa, where are you from?
I'm from Fayetteville. Springdale, Arkansas. But nobody in my family talks like this.
Did you go to school with anyone who had like accents like that?
There's like a few people. Melanie has it on certain words like rice and ice.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Those words.
That makes
but
sense.
Nothing else.
I wish I had a good accent.
You have a accent.
I have like a
North California accent.
Yeah, I have like a NorCal accent and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be weird if you had another one.
I know, but that's just like slang. Anyways.
Okay. Now it's time for But Am I Wrong? And that's where we pick something in our personal lives or a hot take that we present to everyone.
I'm ready.
All right.
Present to me.
Okay. Mine's serious this week.
Okay. Mine is not.
I know we joke about big milk, big printer, but, you know, when you talk about, you know, we're just joking about things like that. We're joking, but it's not like this is a life or death situation for us. So from chemtrails to the death of famous people to 9/11 attacks to the Clintons' body count, the deep state, global warming, vaccinations, conspiracy theories are dangerous, even if just a few people believe it. So that's my hot take.
I want you to continue, but I don't even need you to continue to know that I agree with you and you're not wrong.
Thank you. So David DePape, I believe is how you pronounce it, is the person that broke into Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and Paul Pelosi's house. So he broke in. Meghan will go into more details later, but broke in and confronted Paul Pelosi and was asking, where's Nancy, and assaulted Paul Pelosi, tried to tie him up until Nancy got home. And according to 2 sources, when the police arrived, the assailant said that he was waiting for Nancy. And so there is a conspiracy going around that Paul and David were gay lovers that were in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And the claim was made by the new owner of Twitter, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Denise D'Souza, and, it was promoted to all millions of their followers. And the theory traces back to, like, on the phone, Paul was using coded language to talk to the 911 person to let them know that he was in danger without letting them know he was in danger, and basically saying, like, my friend, blah, blah, blah. But he was saying it so not to alarm this man who beat him.
And like, he's trained when you're in a high profile relationship, like with a politician and that stuff, like, you're not a civilian. Like, you learn these threats are more imminent than for everyday people. So like, that's, the practice and training for that is being displayed as it would for if it happened to like Melania Trump, like it would happen. Right.
And so even though there was no evidence that they were lovers or anything, within 24 hours after attack, the gay lover theory was running rampant among the right-wing social media circles. There are at least 19,000 tweets mentioning the word Pelosi and gay since the day of the attack, and it garnered more than 700,000 likes, according to CNN. And it doesn't include like tweets even just referencing. So these are just specifically that have the words gay and Paul Pelosi in them. And so one of the first widely shared tweets endorsing the theory appears to have come at 11:36 a.m. on Friday, the day of the attack, and gained more than 2,700 tweets. And it was talked about on Steve Bannon's podcast, and he also tweeted it out. And so just all these people from the right making these claims, all it does is just show that they're trying to cover up what's actually happening. They don't want to face the truth of what's happening, where you have somebody that is well known to follow all these right-wing conspiracy theories, and then also very active on Parler. And the big names don't want to admit that they're part of the problem. They're trying to put out these gay rumors instead of just taking ownership for what actually happened. And so when people make, these small things, well, they seem like they're small things. They seem like they're small conspiracy theories, or they seem like they might be harmless, that it's just, people that are just talking and they don't actually mean what they say. They have real consequences to it. So stop entertaining these quote unquote conspiracy theories, because they're just lies that people, a lot of them call themselves free thinkers, which I've already talked about. They, go out and make these things up, and then they go after an elderly man that's in the hospital and has a long way to recover, who has a fractured skull.
Yeah.
Like, this is not okay. And the fact that they're not taking ownership for this is so messed up. And I'm not saying like, don't question the things that you hear, like, be responsible with the media that you take in, and go to people that are trusted sources, and you should question, but like, do it from an educated perspective.
It's also not lost on me that like the argument of like, we question everything, but accept conspiracy theories as blind facts.
Right.
And it goes, well, what about questioning that? Like, I mean, the vast majority of longstanding conspiracy theories, even the ones that seem really fucking innocent, is just rooted in anti-Semitism.
Right.
Like, they're like a gateway drug. Like, as soon as you start to like listen to one, that's why like we always say like, not only like check your sources for, are they qualified and are they respected within their community, like peer reviewed? Because like, sure, you can find an anti-vax doctor,
right,
but like,
you could go listen to Dr. Oz talk about some bullshit, who is, a cardiologist, but you look at the bigger picture, what the majority of the doctors are saying, what they're endorsing, what the official governing board are actually, doing, and what actions they're taking.
And especially when it comes to like now having, whether it's like politicians or even like the weird Republican influencers or whatever, like checking your sources of like who you're getting said information from. Like this person might seem like, oh, not everybody is Azalea Banks, who sometimes has like good take from a person who doesn't always have good takes. Like this is, but when you see someone like, and you agree with something that they're saying, and then you see their next tweet, they're like peddling like Sandy Hook was a hoax and like the vaccine has like all of this stuff. Like your automatic assumption shouldn't be like, oh, I don't align with all of those, but I think like this. And it goes, well, how are those tied together? Like, how did this person get from this to this? And like, I don't want to share beliefs with someone on a level of something that like might be controversial.
Right.
Because it's like, uh-oh, where are my own like lack of education or internal biases? Where are they hindering me to get to the place of someone who like I don't respect their education, their knowledge, and like their morals and tact of going about these things. Right. So you are not wrong at all. Dare I say, like we've talked about this before, like we hate conspiracy theories. Like even the ones again that are like, oh, this is just like all in good fun, seemingly innocent. The closest I've ever gotten to enjoying, quote unquote, a quote unquote conspiracy theory is Big Milk and Big Printer. Like, right. And those aren't even like real ones.
No,
but even
that's
ones
just
of
us
like
talking out the side of our neck.
Yeah, and like Avril Lavigne, it's like, oh, she was replaced with a body double. Like every conspiracy theory, like it feels like it doesn't sit right with me. Like it always feels like no matter what, this is going to lead back somewhere. And like, why are we like questioning a woman and her talent and her career or whatever it is? Like it's not fun or funny for at least a certain chunk of the someone who's affected by this. And it's just, you also notice there's not a lot of conspiracy theories about Trump. There's not a lot of conspiracy theories about.
You see where it's coming from.
Yeah, you know? So.
Like the one, like I mentioned the Clinton body count. They were saying like this was big in the 90s that anytime somebody crossed the Clintons that they had like mob connections and the person was killed.
That's how they've gotten so many people into like the Pizzagate QAnon shit because they've been playing like the anti-Clinton stuff has been around forever. And I don't think it's far-fetched for us to say that it's so much of it is directed at Hillary, even prior to her announcing that she was going to be running for president. Yeah. So there was,
but when she wasn't even like considering, it probably was always in the back of her head, but
I think it probably would have been a little different if it didn't seem that if she was a woman who knew that she was powerful in that 100%
sense. Because she took she had an actual position in the White House, and then they were literally burning like pictures and like they made like a piñata.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
Of her, and we're burning in front of the White House, and she didn't even know it until recently. And she stepped down because, going even further back, when Bill was running for governor of Arkansas, her name was Hillary Rodham. She didn't go by Clinton.
Yeah.
And they made her because like in the early clips, they would make her like she would just say, I'm Hillary Rodham. That's what she went by. And then because he was running for governor, they made her add it on because the people were just like against her.
Well, vast majority of people who dislike Bill Clinton, it's because of her.
Yeah.
Like they don't like her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
they're scared of her.
Yeah. They don't like women.
Mm-hmm.
And they especially don't like women in power, nor women who know they have power.
Yep.
So you're not wrong. I hate conspiracy theories. Mine is not serious. And I have no research on it because that's what I care about.
Okay, let's go.
My hot take. The idea that gluten abroad is just better than gluten in America. And the issue with gluten intolerance, celiac is all just in America is complete bullshit. This is a thing that has been going on for fucking ever. And I am not usually a proud American. There are some instances when the USA women's gymnastics team, here I am, my country, my girls, love them to death. And second, when white Europeans start coming, or to be fair, specifically anyone, but the ones who really fucking do it and make content, is these white Europeans who come after like, America, at least we can go to school and like not get shot. Like at least like.
The main person that said that wasn't white though.
Oh, that video? Oh no, that was, I've seen that. That was the last one I saw, but I've seen, these been going on for fucking ever. Forever, ever. And this like, oh, America, like, you know, America's like, so look at your like giant supersized sodas. And like, you're like, oh my gosh, like everyone here is just like, oh wow, like all of you are like so fat and you eat so much, like could never be me. Like, ugh, America. And those are the moments where I'm proud to be American, where at least I know I'm free. And there's a bald eagle and like a flag behind me. And I'm like, bitch, pull out my fucking camo pants. Like, God bless America.
Right.
And there is like this internalized like hatred of America that is super unwarranted when it comes to how we view like European countries. So all of these Americans will be like, oh my gosh, I like went to Italy and like the issue is like the American gluten. Like this is all like I can eat literally everything here. And I'm on a bunch of like gluten-free subreddits and different like food subreddits, but specifically the gluten-free one. Once a week, there's a post from an American who is like, guys, I figured out the issue. Like it's just the American gluten. Like all of our food is so much more processed, which yeah, we have very processed food. There's lots of really processed food everywhere. America's just really fucking big. So we have a lot more options of said processed food. Like if you scale it down, you know, in large cities and countries that have like a similar metropolitan like breakdown, you know, there's chips, there's candy, and there's also different like regulations on what ingredients we can have. Like in different places, like lots of places in like Asia have like really great, like a sunscreen, different approvals that we don't have here. And there are places like in Canada, or maybe not all places of Canada, certain places of Canada, they like can't have some of the same skincare ingredients that we use. They're like, they're actives and they're like great for like resurfacing like texture or whatever. So there's different regulations. Some are better, some are worse. They're not universal. But like these people get on here and they say that the issue is American gluten, as if there are people in the UK who don't have celiac and who aren't allergic to gluten there. Like it's maybe this actually does tie back to conspiracy theories, that it's like the idea that like, oh no, our food is making like, this is an American thing. They're trying to give us all gluten intolerance, blah, 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 blah. This is all so bad. And it's just not true. There's like literally nothing factually proven. And if that was the case, so 1 in 133 Americans has celiac and 1 in 100 people in the UK and Europe have celiac. So there isn't anything also saying that the gluten in some places is different or more superior that would then change your body composition and how your body processes this. And the only like actual study, like the conclusion that medical journals have like come to in this, that it's like, it's psychosomatic because you've heard that this happens before, or you're traveling, you're on vacation, you're moving a lot more, you're in a great mood. So like your baseline level is already elevated than it is when you're at home. And you're either A, more willing to kind of compromise and justify in your own mind, like, oh, I'm having some digestion kind of things, but like you're having a great time. You're on vacation. You're like thinking about all this stuff. You're not sitting at home. You don't have as much time to like focus on your stomach, how you're dealing with and all of that. Or you don't actually have an issue with gluten and you have an issue with something else. Like it's about the different kinds of things that you're eating. It's about how you're eating. Are you having water while you eat? Are you eating faster? Are you eating slower? All of this shit. And then people get online and start posting like, oh, this is what this is. Or like literally there's like all these TikToks, people being like, oh my gosh, just take me back to Europe. Like I can literally eat pasta there. Like I like can't, like I'm like allergic to gluten in the US, but I can't do that here. And it's just ridiculous. It's not true. And because your body processes things differently in somewhere else, like let's look at the bigger picture and remember that like there are people who can't eat gluten all over the world. Like we can all be upset about it. You can be upset that like you can't eat gluten here. And then you can be excited you can eat gluten in other places. But the biggest thing when people just constantly talk about this, then there are people who claim celiac in the United States who then say these same things. And then people who have celiacs and then they go to the United Kingdom and then they eat food and then get poisoned with gluten. So like it becomes like, I'm a big advocate of not eating foods that make you feel bad. And also, I also don't think you should claim allergies I don't think you should claim allergies if you don't have allergies because it does diminish other people when it comes to like cross-contamination. Like kitchens will just be like, well, this person, they said that they couldn't have this. And then they start to apply it to other people, which is not a good thing to do, but it happens. But you can't have this like claim that this is the solution and like the catch-all to all of this, when in reality, like you're just influencing people to like potentially get really fucking sick. Mm-hmm. And it just drives me crazy because people message me, they're like, oh my gosh, you should go to Europe. Like you could eat things in there. I go, actually, I can eat a lot more things in the UK because they have wonderful allergy laws where they have like requirements of like disclosing everything on their menu and being able to make, I think it's at least 60% of the menu without the top 12 most common allergens. Like that's why I can eat a lot more there. But like, no, I can't do this. And when we have this kind of like wishy-washy sort of stance on this, it makes everybody more lax about it. And you can claim like, and I don't mean claim in like the unverified way, like you can like, you can't have gluten. Like, you know that you're like, sure, you could have it, but like,
but it's
you don't
very
feel
sensing.
good.
And I don't, I won't have it unless it's just, today I might want a piece of cake, but exactly. I'm not gonna go like just eat gluten.
Yeah, no, and like you'll plan your day around it.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't have anything to do tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to have this.
Exactly. And like, that's like a very common thing for people with like a lot of fucking different things. Mm-hmm. And like sugar, dairy, whatever it is. And that's like great, amazing. But when it becomes, you don't have to have a celiac diagnosis. You don't have to like, you could even test like negative and still have an issue with that. That's totally fine. But then though you can't have yourselves be like the face of gluten-free or in like an influential kind of space, or even talking about it from a point of authority at all. Because like, you just sound so fucking uneducated because you are so uneducated, but it's not like an innocent level of that lack of knowledge and perpetuating like all of that. Like that is like literally dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, well, I've heard it so many times that, in Europe, it's different.
I looked it up wondering if it was a thing.
Yeah. And so like when you were speaking, I was just looking up on my phone and there were several articles that came up as like, it's not true. Like we do use a different type of wheat, or the wheat that we use, it comes from a different part or a different process, but there's no, like, this is harmful, and if you have a sensitivity or you have celiac disease, do not go to Europe and do this.
Yeah, and also like that part of it, like so many places import their like flour and things that contain gluten from like Europe, from all these other places. Like there isn't like a universal, and like there are places in Europe that like might get their flour from America. Like it's not consistent. And I remember I looked it up after hearing so many people say this, and I was like, wow, like really? And then when it literally said, it was like, no, there are people all across the world who have like gluten intolerance, gluten sensitivity, all the way to celiac. And I was like, wow, of course, Meghan, like what the fuck was I thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And it just becomes like when you're in frivolous in nature, like I'm glad that I looked it up. I would have never fucking done it without that because I can't even do cross-contamination. But for people who are like newer along on that or who are like younger and didn't, I fell for it. And thankfully I fucking Googled it.
Mm-hmm.
But other people don't do that. And it's just, or they like don't really, and then they like don't really have too much of like a sensitivity. They just like think that they do, or they're eating different foods.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get on their TikTok saying the exact same thing. I just hate it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you're not wrong.
American gluten is equal to European gluten. They might make better things with their gluten-based foods.
And there's also like bakers and like bread makers and things. There's specific flours that they'll use, and like it might be different. And if you are sensitive to one thing, you might not be as sensitive to another. So if you're going to a specialty baker in Europe, you might be able to eat this one thing, but that doesn't mean that you can just universally eat everything there.
And you also might like the food more. And so any negative consequences that come from it, they pale in comparison to the point where you might not even notice them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's...
Like I say, I will enjoy a cake, but I won't enjoy bread.
And like we do that here already. And I'm like, it's just on an international scale that we're doing, like that these people are doing that. And like, that's okay. But like, you can't get on there and tell that this is what's happening here because America, we've got a lot of things to work against. So like
Beyonce said, but you don't know. America has a problem. Well, actually, she didn't say it, but it's her song.
I think I've heard that part.
Okay.
But like, don't make me work on the lobby panel for big gluten in America. Like, we've got a lot of other issues to work for, but like, don't tell Europe that our issue is our gluten.
Yeah.
Because no, it's not. Don't let them get cocky.
They already are.
They're so cocky. Don't give them any more.
I know.
And they have celiacs left, right, and center.
When you were talking about like patriotism, I curated my TikTok enough where it's like people are like the only time that we rise up is when the Europeans try to come for us.
Oh, anytime Meghan Markle is brought up in conversation, I am USA. Mm-hmm. I will protect my girl.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, well, let's take a break.
Woo! And we're back from our break. If you're watching the video or if you head on over to our Instagram, you should know that I'm wearing our merch. It's our therapy sweatshirt. And if you are a medium, Melissa thinks that there's about 4 left in stock. If you want to get one, get one. Now it's time for...
But are you wrong?
And this is when, like we said at the beginning, you submit your own predicaments, something you're going through in your life. It could be like past, maybe you're harping on it, but usually it's present day kind of stuff. And you write us at butamiwrongpod@gmail.com. Keep it under 300 words. Let us know your age, your pronouns if you would like. Keep it all anonymous. So give us some fake names. Again, let us know their ages because that's actually more important. And again, pronouns if you are so inclined. Yeah, anything else for that?
No. All right, here is writer number 1. I'm 19 years old, she, her, and live in Norway. My question revolves around the use of the name Karen as a synonym for being unreasonable, bigoted, or mean. Obviously, it is a good thing that people who misbehave in our society are held accountable. However, I do feel bad for people who are called Karen but behave nothing like the stereotype. Even in Norway, where it isn't one of the most popular names amongst white middle-aged women, Karen has become a cultural phenomenon. Maybe I'm too partial in this since my 16-year-old sister, she, her, name is Karen. Luckily, she's able to distance herself from the connotation people have to her name, but it's at times used unfairly against her. For example, she plays a male-dominated sport And when she stood her ground against some male teammates who wanted to prioritize over her practice, she was dismissed as being a Karen. There also doesn't seem to exist a male equivalent of the name. Perhaps men benefit from being viewed with nuance, whereas women get categorized as Karens, whether they are a little unreasonable or literal racist. Similarly, I noticed that your podcast uses the name Rachel, but I understand that it's an inside joke within the M&M community. Am I overreacting to the way names are used as synonyms for negative traits and values in others? Am I wrong for thinking there are some misogynistic undertones in the way Karen is used, especially considering the lack of male equivalents? Looking forward to hearing your views on this, and would also love to hear from any listeners who are called Karen, Rachel, or have similar experiences with their own names. Well, I'll actually get more into the misogyny and misuse of the name Karen later but are they wrong? But I'm going to start with the origin of Karen and how it has been whitewashed. So Karen was, like you pointed out, was meant to be used like it was more of a inside joke amongst the Black community of when some white woman inserts herself into the business of others that she has no right or reason to, then they were being called a Karen. And now it just, like as the writer said, is being used by anyone or said in any way as like a way to, be misogynistic. There are male equivalents. Some people just call male Karens, quote unquote, just call them Karen too, or like a Kevin or something like that. But overall, it is just used as a woman who may be just being loud about something now because it has been taken out of the connotation of what it originally was. But most people that I know that are named Karen, I think Karen's one of those names that like there's a bunch of people like from the 80s to back in the wherever the name started. Like there's like a bunch of people in their 30s to 70s named Karen.
Yeah.
And the Karens that most of the ones that I know don't have a problem with it. Like they think it's funny. Even like with Rachel, how we use Rachel.
Oh yeah.
The Rachels that
yeah.
we have as listeners like write in and think it's funny. Like they've told us that they don't take any.
They're like, we don't claim that Rachel, like as a good Rachel.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So, I mean, like if these people are bullying your sisters, I think it might be like a specific to these group of men because her name is Karen and then she's in this male dominated sport and they're just being misogynist. But I think as a whole, I don't think it's a problem.
I agree. I think honestly, like I would rather your little sister have her name be Karen and be called a Karen than have them have to get a little more creative with an insult. Like the name is not what's fueling that. They're being misogynistic, not because her name is Karen. They would have come up with something else. They might have called her a slut or a bitch. Like there's at least a little bit of a failsafe there when it's your name that you're like, oh, okay, I know you're trying to like hurt me there, but like at least you're being a little more coded. When it comes to the misogyny of it, I think it is really important to note that like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like in the conversation of like the origin of people talking about Karens, it was letting other Black people know that it was a white woman specifically without, if they're in mixed company and not being like, letting the people who will get it, and then having it go over the heads of other people. Yeah. But specifically, there is misogyny and then there is racism, and white women, as a white woman, we are some of the worst offenders of perpetuating racism. And so like the white woman tears, that's also not misogynistic. Like that's just like a fact. And like that is an issue in itself. Like I'm all for saying like, fuck you to misogyny and fuck the patriarchy. But I think if we, as a white woman, like if I make certain racist things that like, if I make certain instances of like white women being racist or behaving badly, but then going, but what's the male equivalent? That's not solving the problem. Like they're two really unrelated problems there. And like even equating the stereotypes, there's like the real fact that like of white woman tears and like angry white women and racist white women, all of that, like even just questioning what about the male part of that is like the like legitimate crux of the issue. It's like we weaponize being women as a point where like we can then be abusive, aggressive, and violent towards women, specifically Black women, but like women of other races, because we have been scorned as women. And then like we hide behind the like our get out of jail free card is like, well, I'm a woman, like I'm oppressed by men, like the patriarchy, like misogyny, like that's the issue. Like those are two totally separate issues. And I don't think until like we can fix the truth behind like the racist, aggressive, angry, abusive, yelling white woman, we are not doing much for the patriarchy and like dismantling misogyny as well. Like they're just apples and oranges. So there's a lot of names that we call men, like we have with chads, like douchey guys or whatever. But like, yes, there are like racist and abusive white men, but like the manipulation of like white women calling the cops on like young Black kids who have done absolutely nothing, like an Emmett Till, like something there. Like if you look at the history behind this, like we have a lot of things that suck about being women, but like when we can learn how to weaponize this like faux fragility and like I'm so like dainty and I'm so small and I'm so afraid and like blah blah, we weaponize that and we use that, and that's like just the truth of the matter. Like we're weaponizing it.
And then there's also the cultural difference because you're in Norway and you're not in the United States as well, and that's you don't know the background of where this came from.
And also, I don't think that the people who are calling your sister a Karen know that either. I think as an equivalent that like they think that it's going to be a bigger dig than calling her a bitch or a slut, or like they're trying to just make her mad and like feel poorly about herself. But like the same reason why like the Rachels who like write into our, like they're not upset because like we don't say that every Rachel does this. We're calling a kind of person, and they're like, oh, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. They hear like, oh, that person they're describing. I have no similarities except my name's Rachel. So like, they're not talking about me. So I just think this is like you said, this is just like a gap in knowledge of it. And I'm curious. The only person I know named Karen is like a friend of one of Motz's.
Karen Bass? That you
so one of Motz's friends who's a Black woman, and I like literally was thinking about that
Karens
yesterday.
That I know are Black.
I was like, I can't, and I was thinking about that yesterday, and I was like, I can't imagine. That's one of those like when you get offended by something because it applies. Like if someone called me a Karen, I would be like, what am I doing? Let me unpack that. And then if I was like, I wasn't being a Karen, and I also don't trust your judgment, I wouldn't care. Like it wouldn't hit me. You know?
I'll talk more about it in my butt or there on.
Exciting. Okay. Consensus?
You're wrong.
You're wrong. Sorry. I don't think you're intentionally wrong though.
But like there's cultural differences that you don't understand.
No, I don't think it's intentional. So, hi, Meghan and Melissa. We are all 22. So are Melissa and I. I'm going on a family trip soon, and our dog Max stays with my friend Zach when we travel because he knows how to take care of him, and Max is already familiar with his place and the people he lives with. This is important as Max has separation anxiety, but he feels really safe with Zach. I love that they're two human names, so I'm like, which one's a dog and which one is the guy? Problem is, I'm 99% sure Will, my boyfriend of 8 months, will be upset because I didn't ask him, and maybe because I asked Zach, who he doesn't really like. To be fair, Zach and I dated for a little bit in high school, but it was long ago. We basically were kids, and we've only ever been friends ever since. When Will and I got together, he already knew this. I had a talk with him about Zach to clarify our relationship and avoid jealousy, and things were good. He understood, but now he kind of hates him and says mean stuff about him when he's mad. Zach, on the other hand, likes Will a lot. Will loves Zach and would love to have him, but Max doesn't know his family, who he lives, or the place. I know he'd take good care of him, but I feel safer if he's with Zach, who he's known for ages and loves to death. Although he loves Will, staying with him would be an unfamiliar situation, and we want to avoid that. Will has a tendency to think everything is a reflection on him, so I just know he's going to be hurt. Am I wrong for not even considering him to look after my dog and asking my friend instead? Should I have given him a chance? And any tips on how to tell him nicely? I'm just going to say it right now. I like Zach better. Why don't we date Zach? Why? Right now, the only traits you've given me about Will.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go network by listening today. Look for the Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
That's
Will's
not what they're asking.
I know, but I'm just talking it through. That Will hates Zach because you dated him, even though that was in high school, and which is sure. But like Zach really likes Will. That's I think is like there's one thing to like mutually be like, oh, I really don't like it. But if one person really likes you, you know when someone likes you,
Mm-hmm.
and like he's still liking him even though he knows that it's not reciprocated. And then he takes everything, his tendency to think everything is a reflection on him.
Yeah.
And we're all 22. A 22. Oh, I don't think you're wrong at all. Like, dog forward. Dog likes it. Like, I think that's what you should do. It is, like you said, like a family dog. I'm going on a family trip soon and our dog Max. So I'm wondering if this is like a family dog situation, because if it's not, and like you see a long...
Right?
Or I meant like if it was like your dog that like you have like roommates, but you're going on a trip with your family, so your family couldn't watch. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you live with your family or if it's a family dog, because if it's a family dog, yeah, no, it's like the whole family. You can like, you know, oh, this is who always watches a dog, like whatever. But I think like if you see a future with your partner and it's like your dog, I do wonder, like at a certain point, are you going to be, when you get another dog eventually, like later on, like, are you still going to have like your high school ex who's like a friend watch the dog versus like, if you get married and then he becomes your husband, like, are you going to trust him to watch a dog? Or are you going to trust him to like watch a baby? Like, what, do you know what I mean? Like, where is that level? Because like, you do have to figure that out eventually. And I think like, I wouldn't do that now. Like, I wouldn't say like, oh, wonderful trial period of this. You know, it can't be a forever thing.
Right.
And so like there is a little bit of like, you know, you got to kind of, I don't know. I would find if I'm giving tips on like how to do it nicely, I would first of all just be like, oh yeah, like staying there. I wouldn't even say anything up. It's a family dog. I wouldn't even tell him. Like I would just be like, oh, that's my parents called and like that's where he always stays. Like it just makes sense.
I would just make it as casual as possible, not make a big deal out of it. Because if you make it a big, well, Will thinks everything's about him anyway. But so you're not going to avoid it as, so just like, yeah, staying with Max is staying with, what's his name? Zach.
But I think if he asks, because I think like, I don't even think it's
like where they're going to want to know where.
That's what I mean though. But if he asked, but I wouldn't just be like, hey,
offer it up.
By the way, he's staying with Zach. I just thought you should know. Because then it goes, well, why did you think I should know? Like, I don't think you should, for someone who like makes everything about himself, like if it comes up, you're like, oh yeah. And then it's just
that's
like,
where
oh,
he always
stays there. Like my parents are like friends with like his family, like his like parents, like whatever.
Too much explanation. Just.
No, so I mean, like if he like presses for it, it wouldn't be like, oh, well, when we were dating in high school, he always really got along. Like
that's where he always
It's just where he always stays. And there's like literally nothing more to it. And if he wants to be upset, he can be upset on his own time. But I do think that if you see a future together or a foreseeable future, there sometimes is kind of like are there any other red flags where you maybe aren't wanting your dog to be there? Because it would be a deep connection moment in that way. And if you're kind of hesitant about it, like do you trust his judgment
Right.
and like taking care of things and or like.
But if this is like, you know, a long-term relationship, then he's going to be going on vacations with you. So where is Max going to stay?
Yeah, but I mean, like, you're going to have to, at some point.
Yeah. Question why. Why? Question why Zach is the better choice.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 24 years old, use she, her pronouns, and the other person in this story is 27 years old and uses he, him pronouns. Back in April, I met this guy at a music festival. Let's call him Theo. He was originally from Spain and super tall. So as someone who has an affinity for European men, I was instantly attracted to him. A couple weeks later, Theo invited me out for drinks and I happily agreed to go. The date was really great, honestly, maybe one of the best first dates I've had in my short time of dating as an adult. I ended up going back to his place and we hooked up. It was pretty great and we have a lot of sexual chemistry. The only problem is his dick size. It's on the smaller side and does not compare in stature to partners I've had in the past or present. I kind of think he knows that because he does make up for it in other ways, but as someone who is of the very small percentage of people with vaginas who can come from penetrative sex and really enjoys it, it really does leave something to be desired. I've only seen him twice since then because he's been traveling and visited home for a few months, but he comes back next week. I'm excited to see him because I like spending time with him, but I also feel bad because I don't see myself being with him long term because of his small dick. Am I wrong for not wanting to date him solely because he has a small dick? By the way, I absolutely love both your podcasts and have been listening since I was in high school. You two are stars. Keep up with the amazing content.
We are stars.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong about that.
But
I
strongly believe that you're wrong about the dick size thing.
I strongly believe that you're wrong too, but I also, I think if you liked him, like, this is just, I don't think the sex is probably that good, or he's
That's
like
what I don't
trying
understand.
to initiate more. Like, he's like, you said he's like, he does make up for it in other ways.
If you really like him and you have good sexual chemistry, I don't understand what the problem, just because his dick is smaller, I don't see that as a problem.
I don't think the sex is as good as, like, I think you're trying to be kind, and I don't think the sex is measuring up because, like,
choice words.
I think that, like, yeah, penetrate, like, first of all, a lot of the time of like being able to come from penetrative sex is, yes, how your body and it's about, like, you know, the positioning of anatomically where your clit is and your G-spot is in relation to like your hip bones and like all of these other things. But it's also a lot to do with like the position in which you're having sex.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the time, like people who are coming from like solely penetration, it's because there's clit action happening while penetration is happening. And regardless of like the size of the dick, like you didn't say it's a micro penis, like you still are having
I think you had unrealistic expectations based on the fact that he was tall. And that just seems, because you're like, he is, what'd you say? Super tall. And so I think like comparatively to his height, maybe it was a little on the smaller side, but like
also
this just, everything about the way you set up this just seems very fetishy to me. Like I don't like it.
Well, the European thing is,
he's European, super tall, in all capitals, and like I have an affinity for European men.
I think there was a different word there, and then she swapped it for Europeans to be more broad in general, which is because that doesn't make any sense to me. Like Europe is huge, and like there are so many, like you have different accents, different like religions, ethnic breakups, like what people look like, what they like that's not a catch-all. So I feel like it's just so you can't be like, oh, I love Europeans, and then you pick two totally separate places. Like, well, that's weird. Like, I think that there might have been a more specific fetishing part of this. But the thing with like having sex with like big dicks versus like, okay, sure, like there's huge smart water bottles, and then there's like big dicks. Like sometimes if it's like positioning, like you have to do way less work because you as like not you, the person with the penis has to do way less work, but then you as the person who having sex with them, you're doing more work to like get the angle right that like works for you. And that like guys who like don't have like the most massive dicks and they're smaller, like you're saying, like he like is doing like stuff to make up for it, but like it just might not be that like he wasn't that great at it and it wasn't that awesome, but like he's got a dick, you enjoy the sensation of having sex with a penis, and you can use a vibrator on your clit and come from like penetrative sex. Like I just think that you can also get penetrated by a dildo. Like you can get penetrated. Like
I don't think like if you actually like someone, then I don't think their dick size, like if you as you claim that you're very attracted to him, you have great sexual chemistry and you like him, I don't think the size of the dick should matter.
No,
there's something else going on here.
I wholly agree. I think, like you said, one of the best dates you've ever had as an adult, like it's on the smaller size and it doesn't compare to like, because
I just like the old saying goes, it's not the size of the ship, it's the motion of the ocean.
Yeah, and I think if we were talking about like, oh, I prefer to have sex with like body wise, it's fits with my body better to have sex with someone who has a like baby arm full, like a 12-inch dick. And this person has a micro penis. It's about 1.2 inches. That I understand more. But like right now, it doesn't seem like you're talking on like, it's not the two extreme ends of like a spectrum. Like if we're talking about 1 to 2 inch differences, like, you know, I've had sex with some people who have huge dicks, and I've also had sex with, one person. I've had sex with small dicks, but I've had sex with one person specifically who had a very, very, very small dick, and the sex wasn't good because I didn't like him. Like, it just like,
if you liked him, then you'd be like, I can use the whatever, I can use the assistance.
But more importantly, I would have cared to try.
You would care. That's when
exactly that. It's like when you're like, oh, I'm not even gonna like try. It's that's not a bad thing, but it's not because of his dick size. It's because like I don't care enough to even try to like make this work.
Or you're just very superficial.
Yeah. Also, hot people can be bad in bed.
Yeah.
Like you could have amazing chemistry with someone and not have great sex.
One of the hottest guys that I hooked up with, like very sexy, very good kisser, wasn't good at eating me out, and then he had a very thick penis that I could not get in
Beer
there.
Can.
Yeah.
Oof. It feels like you're crowning.
I couldn't even get it in because it was just crowning. That was it. I was like, this isn't gonna work.
Square peg, round hole.
And then he was like, oh, I can make it. And then he just like sucked on my clit for a second. And I was like, this is doing nothing.
This is doing nothing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's.
But also, I did not like him enough to make it work.
Yeah. And I also think that like, I would be curious to know the size discrepancy between like what you're used to and like what this is, because like unless someone's sending you a dick pic with something for size for reference that you can like literally verify is like actually true size, we're all just like estimating when you're like, you don't know, like it can be like, okay, this feels a little bigger, this feels like a little smaller or whatever. And there's again, opposite ends of the spectrum where like just from looking at it, you can tell, but you also just might not have had good sex and you might have thought that's because of his.
Yeah. You're 24.
Yeah.
I think you're wrong.
I think you're wrong too. Not even intentionally, but it's not kind, you know?
Yeah. Somebody's like, your tits are too small, and so I can't have sex with you.
Yeah. And it's like, well, no, regardless of how big your tits are, like, you could have massive tits and I just might not be that into you.
Yeah.
And like, it's always better that like sometimes we think of like, oh, well, he's like perfect on paper, but like, what's like the issue with him? And like, sometimes the issue is like, I don't like him. And like, that's all there is to it. There's like nothing wrong with you. And that doesn't make me a bad person.
Pick on somebody because of their physical appearance.
No. Meghan and Melisa said men's rights.
Feminist.
Penis rights. Okay. Hi, Melissa and Meghan. Look at you, first billing. This story involves myself, 29, she, her, and my brother, 34, he, him. I am engaged in having my first wedding dress appointment in a few weeks. My brother is coming along with 4 others. A week ago, he offered to take me to brunch before the appointment and said I could bring the other attendees as well. We decided that I would make a small list of options for restaurants that have brunch, and he would book the reservation. I gave him my recs and made sure they were reasonably priced, served brunch, and were close to the dress shop. He replied back a few days later and said he booked a reservation at a completely different place that doesn't even serve brunch and wasn't on my list. It's the most expensive place in town and only serves lunch. When I found out, I got upset because if he had just wanted to get lunch, I would have had a lot more options to pick from. And he clearly didn't care about my suggestions. This is a pattern throughout our lives where he wants to do something nice for me or my family, but then decides to make his own decisions and doesn't appreciate our opinions. Am I wrong for being upset, and should I still appreciate the gesture? I spoke to my father and he thinks I should say I don't want to go, but I'm trying to work through these issues in therapy and I'm trying to be nicer overall to my brother as a result. Are there ways to stand up for myself next time if I am right? Thanks for taking the time to read this. Love you both. And I'm not going to read your name because it seems, judging from your email, it seems like your real name.
Yep.
I don't know what you're going through in therapy, but for you to hold back on this, I'm questioning, is this something your therapist says or something that you've interpreted in this way? Because like, some therapists are bad therapists, but like right now, if you're working on like being nicer, quote unquote, and this is an example, this feels like you're working on letting people not respect your boundaries and walk all over you.
That part.
Like, and
yeah.
What's your therapist saying? I'm concerned.
I am too. Like, seriously, what did your therapist say in this specific situation? Because if they're okay with, you set what you wanted to do, where you wanted to go, gave options, and he's like, fuck that. And your therapist was like, you know what? He made the gesture, so you should be appreciative of that. Fuck that. People can make nice gestures, but like, this isn't a nice gesture. This is somebody who, the only nice gesture that he made was to get you a meal, but then you set up your parameters and he's not abiding by them.
No. Your dad said that like you should just say you don't want to go. So like my other question is, were you like horribly horrible to your brother? Like, and is this him getting payback? And is that why
and
it's
you're
like,
making amends? You feel like this is how you make amends, is by caving?
Yeah. Like, do you think that like, are you letting something slide after like years of like chasing him around the house with like scissors and like cutting his hair and like peeing on him when he's sleeping? Like, did you torment this? Like, was he in therapy for years for like your treatment of him? And like, this is like the most he can muster up as like retaliation. And then this is evening the score. Cause that's wildly different. And if so, I would say you got off easy.
Yeah.
Go for the fucking lunch. But I am a little like alarmed. Like, I'm trying to be nicer to my brother overall. And I'm working through these issues in therapy. What issues are we working through? Because again, unless it's that you ruined his entire childhood by being like factually and like arbitrarily, like universally horrible to him constantly, I don't know why you should just like let this go. And there's like a kind way to go about it. And I also think like if you're concerned about like your delivery and your tone with this and you're working on that, that also makes me feel like you've just been walked all over constantly. And now you're in therapy because people don't like your response to being walked over.
Or you've been a bitch your whole life. There's that too.
No, totally. Oh, and like unrelated. And so communicating, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So figuring out how to communicate when you're being a bitch universally. So even when it's warranted and it's not, and not having that kind of gauge. I mean, I think standing up for yourself doesn't have to be, it can just be like, one of my favorite things to do sometimes is like, and this can sometimes hurt more than like actually like being like overtly mean, is just, I'm assuming you totally forgot about this. I actually said like this. And it's just like a gentle reminder in a way that like, they can read it as like, oh, she knows that I am choosing to not do this. And now I have to like actually say it again to her face. Like, oh, I'm just going to pick this. I'm not going to let it slide by. Or they can be like, oh my God, amazing. They gave me an out because I did blank that they said this. And I think after that point, and then it's like, oh, well, no, I want to do this. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? That's like, I think it's a really like nice gesture. I'm not interested like in doing that, but like, I might do a brunch like later on with my friends. Like, you're more than welcome to come. Like, and then it's just like, you just take away that opportunity. If someone's like creating an event for you that you don't like, and you don't want, and it's like explicitly against your wishes, I think it's always better to just be like, thank you, but no thank you. Because if you go and you attend and all of that, like there's just unrealistic expectations on how you're supposed to like receive that when everyone knows you don't want that. So like you actually can't win. Like they're going to be like, well, you weren't excited enough. You weren't happy enough. It's like, you literally knew I didn't want this. And like, you just want to watch me fail. And there's nothing I could have done to like be enough in your eyes for the situation.
Yeah. I mean, if this was me and my sisters, like if Meghan said, hey, I'm going to take you out to dinner, where do you want to go? And then I gave her some suggestions and then she disregarded it, I would simply be like, bitch, I didn't give you those suggestions. And then she would laugh it off. We'd laugh it off and then go to where I want to go. So I know that not all relationships are the same, but since we don't have any backstory for this, I don't know how to handle it.
I would do the same thing. Kyle's done that before. He goes, where should we go to dinner? And then I'm like, let's go here. Or like, here are the options that I think we should go for. And then he goes, okay, we're going to go here. And I go, what's that? I don't know that place.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Where's the menu? What am I eating? Send me my pics.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you if I like it. Like, everyone should want everyone else to have a good time.
Yep.
So, you are not wrong.
For me, you might be. I don't know.
That is true. You are wrong with the stipulation. I reserve the right to backtrack if you tormented your brother for years.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a break.
Woo! Hi, how was your break? Time for But Are They Wrong, aka
Rachel of the week.
So, you were first.
So Daniel Mack, you know who that is? That guy on TikTok that goes up to people that are like in expensive cars and they're like, and he goes, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that guy, he went up to two women that were in a Porsche and they asked him why he was holding a camera in their face. And they said, you think you can just walk up to people and start filming? And they didn't want to be filmed. And he didn't get their consent to be filmed first. And so he like filmed this and put it up because they're like, whatever, just post it, like more out of anger and frustration. And he put in the hashtag, called them Karens. And again, that's not what a Karen is. If you walk up to someone, and y'all know already how I
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
feel about people just shoving cameras in people's faces. If you walk up to someone, like, you shouldn't just be filming strangers that you know without asking first. And he's like, in the video, he's like, but that's what my whole TikTok is about. That's what my whole account. And they're like, well, we don't want to be filmed. And they are like being a little like angry. But again, if a stranger, and it's not just him with his camera, he also has a camera crew. And so like if strangers walk up to you and are just filming you without asking first, because I honestly thought he would just ask these people first, like,
well, a lot of them feel like PR setup.
Yeah.
So I would assume
I thought he was asking them first and then they set it up. But no, he's just going up to people and filming them and asking them. Also in the description, he said, could have driven off at any point. But they're wanting to know what you're doing with this footage, why you're filming them. They're asking you questions. And he's just acting like they're being like the biggest pains. Like, I can't believe that they did this. And then in the comments, people are saying like, based on their reaction, they don't actually own the car or they rented it, and saying like, my man's has asked the president himself and he was more respectful. That's because Joe Biden doesn't just drive cars around. Like, he's not allowed to drive cars around. they obviously got permission first and went up to, like, it was a whole PR stunt.
Yeah, there were emails coordinated.
Yes. Yes. I'm pretty sure the Joe Biden one was at a car show where he was talking about electric vehicles to get more people to buy electric vehicles. So you don't have the right to film people without their consent. And then you're calling them Karens and saying they can drive off when they don't know what this video footage is being used for. And then you go ahead and post it anyway. So this fella, Daniel Mack, is my Rachel of the week.
He just in January, he was signed to CIA. And they're talking about, and through CIA, he's been able to shoot content with clients Helen Mirren and Sung Kang.
Yeah. And the Helen Mirren one, I think, was for Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
anyway.
that's like,
yeah,
what?
Like those are all PR things, but you don't just go up to strangers and then have multiple. And even maybe in the early days, it probably just was him with his iPhone, but now you've got a whole camera crew. Like, you can't just do that to people.
There's also a difference with, like, when you are just doing something solo with your phone, you don't feel as established or legitimate. So, like, you do ask beforehand 99% of the time. Like, you're not just going to start filming. Like, there are some people, cough David Dobrik, who are just, like, absolute pieces of shit and have so much fucking, like, ego regardless of that. They don't have, like, the safety. But, like, when you have a camera crew, like, you feel bold. Like, you feel a little emboldened to do something that, like, I really hope you have lawyers who have, like, told you that you actually really can't do this. Like, first of all, you can't do this with anyone, regardless of their income bracket. But if you're going to be filming people who have the money to fucking sue you for, and they're not going to win a lawsuit, but they're just going to drain you of your fucking money. And, like, they'll do, like, a whatever it is. Like, these are powerful people who could threaten you in that sense. And also, some really rich people have not gotten their money in the most.
Yeah. But these are like two women. They look like they might be 20s, early 30s. Like, if I see people coming up to me, filming me, I need to know what it's going to be.
Like, I also mean, like, some people have gotten settlements in divorces from, like, a really abusive people. And, like, that's part of the reason why you shouldn't film anyone in general. Like, you don't know who has changed their name and has moved and is, like, hiding from an abusive ex. You don't know about, like, family situations and, like, all of that stuff, or, like, how this person has said money. You also don't know if, like, someone is a housekeeper or is, like, a nanny or an assistant and is, like, then suddenly it's their boss's car and they're supposed to be driving it, but, like, their boss doesn't want a video of this. Right. Like, I am also shocked that he does not get, like, a release if he's, like, repped at a big agency. That, like, where's your lawyer? Like, you need to be getting releases for all of this, especially because, like, if these brands find out that you're not doing that, like, brands literally will make you. I've had to, like, blur every single person's face in the background of a video that was already out of focus. I've had to cut out shots that had, like, a fraction of someone's face that was already blurred. You have to get permission for, like, the legal teams of these, like, brands who want to sponsor you and all that. And they find out that you're not even getting releases from people. Like, that onus is on you. Like, you're going to be the one who's, like, screwed.
Yeah. And I think that the only reason why he posted it is because out of frustration, they say in the video, whatever, just post it.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's like his lawyer was like, well, no. And I think that he's probably like, I've done things against my lawyers. Like, technically, sure, but I wouldn't do it. And I'm like, I'm still going to do it. Yeah. But, like, it's not the greatest choice ever. But yeah, that's probably why.
Even in the caption for it, it says they had a full public meltdown over this. They were in their car.
You can't, like, that's super creepy, dude. Yeah. Like, it's really, really creepy. Like, you don't know if someone has a stalker. You also don't know if, like, a man with a camera crew of, let's be real, what are crews mostly made of? Yeah. Men.
I mean, you can see the other guy in the video, the other cameraman.
That feels dangerous.
It does. And I want to know what you're doing with the video. And the fact that you're not sharing it and just being a jackass is just uncalled for.
Yeah. I've done it to be kind. Like, I went to, like, a golf tournament or whatever, and they were, like, filming, and, like, the guy was like, oh, can we get a shot of you doing this? And I was like, you can, like, get the guys in here, but, like, you can't put my face in it. My agents are going to ask you for money. And, like, I don't want, like, I'm trying to help you. And they were like, oh, thank you so much. And I was like, if you have, like, releases, I can, like, look over it and, like, see what, like, it is. And they were like, oh, no. Like, but, like, thank you. Like, there's a level of recognizing that, but like, that's just, wow. I also fucking hate those videos.
Yeah.
I just think they're so...
Why do you care?
I'm also just like really blown away that like some of these are apparently authentic and not like PR placements.
Yeah.
Like that's how you know
I
the
think
content is so dry.
The early ones were more like during the pandemic and he was just going to car shows and stuff.
But even then, like the whole thing, it's so fucking dry and like there's
it's the same thing like when people were just like ringing people's doorbells and asking them what they did for a living. Like it's the same thing. And I'm like, why are you driving up to these people's houses and asking them that?
Well, also like, no offense to him, like you're not interesting and you're also not talking to interesting people and you're not like asking interesting questions. And so I'm just like, why should I be interested?
Yeah.
Like it's just so dry. Like it's so fucking boring.
Yeah.
I would like to nominate enemy, foe of the podcast, Elon Musk. And you could be like, Meghan, for what this time? And I could tell you a laundry list of things. But today we are focusing on his acquisition of Twitter and his attempt to get people to pay $20 a month for verification.
Are you going to pay?
God, no. I had a YouTube premium subscription for 3 months and then that free little thing, it ended and I was like, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I'm the person who like, I do a free trial of something on my phone, like an app. I set a timer on my phone. Like I do like a day, cancel this.
I cancel it right away.
I usually do, but sometimes I want to reap the benefits for a week.
No, you can, if you cancel it right away, then it just cancels after the...
Oh no, I think this one specifically said, once you cancel it, you don't have access to this anymore. And I was like, okay. So this is just like, my mind has been, I need to stop being surprised by him because he's not smart. Like he's rich with access and he's able
There's no like nothing happens to him if...
When you're that rich and you have that much access, you have access to smart people. So like you can have success by proxy and you can surround yourself by really smart people. And to be fair, that's a lot of the time what most fucking CEOs do. But when you also are just like unethical and just horrible, all of that goes away because his own ego and his bigotry gets in the way of actually connecting with pioneers in whatever industry he wants to dominate. So the reason why he wants to do these subscriptions is because he's telling everybody, or the implication to everyone is that like, oh, you know, those like stupid blue check marks with their blah, blah. Like every time I fucking like have any tweet that goes semi-viral or like anything even political, it's like, oh yeah, okay, blue check mark. And I go, is this the new Pizzagate? Like, what the fuck do you think this blue check mark means? Like it is used, like they think they use it as a slur online, like already. It's so fucking weird. And I go, well, I'm verified because of, you know, it's only because of fake accounts that make it so you want it to be, this is the real one. That's what all verification is. Like, it's not about how many followers you have or like how famous you get. Like, that's why there's a lot of journalists or people who had internships at like political campaigns or wherever, like will have verified accounts because it was important to people to know that this is where the trusted information is coming from. And so the implication online, the reason why he's doing this is it's to take, quote unquote, like take away that, not actual quotes, but like to take away the power from these meaningless blue check marks that like, they're no better than us. Like we're all the same. Like this is obsolete and like blah, 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 blah. And it's literally not that. The reason why is because as soon as he acquired this, Twitter's advertisers are not wanting to spend as much money on Twitter because a lot of people are starting to leave the platform already.
Shonda Rhimes left.
Yeah, I know. But also brands don't want a fucking hellscape. They don't want to see like, oh, there's a Gillette ad right next to someone posting a photo of a Confederate flag. Like they don't want that association, even though it is separate and they're not going to be sued for anything of it. It is not good for their brand image. So they're losing advertisers rapidly, even the ones they currently have. But also, it's highly unlikely that he's even going to meet what they made last year. It's probably going to be exponentially less. And the longer he owns Twitter, and like if there's advertising contracts that span more than 12 months, if it's an 18-month contract, it's not looking great for how much money he's going to make, which is going to make him look really bad. Because the whole thing with the same thing with like Donald Trump, where it's like, oh, like, you know, smart businessmen, quote unquote, billionaire, like these people, like they know what to do. Like they're going to run it like a corporation. And it's like, you're about to see that he's not even going to be able to make as much money as they made last year. Like, this isn't going to be any financial improvement. And as much as he cares about his image, that's really fucking bad for his image. Like, really fucking bad. So he also is saying that, like, oh, it's gonna be fewer ads, everybody. I'm being nice. I'm helping with fewer ads. It's less ads because people don't want to advertise with you. It's not that. Users would always prefer more ads than a paid model. And so it was originally $20. And now he is saying that, like, with that, you can have long form video and, like, you can post more audio, which you could already post audio. And his tweet was, Twitter's current lords and peasant system for who has or doesn't have a blue check mark is bullshit. Power to the people. Blue for now $8 a month, because everybody said it wouldn't be $20. Like, they wouldn't fucking pay that. And he literally responded to someone's tweet and said, what about $8? And I'm like, Elon, you really didn't even like survey or do any sort of thing to, like, understand what people would pay? And now you're, like, asking one individual, like, well, how about $8? Are you throwing out? It was a journalist, I think. Let me see. It might be in this article. Oh, shut the fuck up. It wasn't. It was Stephen King. So Stephen King said $20 a month to keep my blue check. He tweeted Monday. They should pay me. If that gets instituted, I'm gone like Enron. And then he said, if it ain't the money, it's the principle of the thing. And then Elon Musk replied and said, we need to pay the bills somehow. Twitter cannot entirely rely on advertisers. How about $8? I cannot tell you a single person I know who would pay for that.
No, it's going to be people, free thinkers. That's who it's going to be.
Yeah.
Everybody that are just like them, because they don't actually think. They just do.
And it's also so wild because I'm like, oh, so that means if you have $8 a month that, like, your voice is more important than. So, like, I thought the whole thing is, like, power to the people. Anyone can do this. And it's like, oh, I don't like that famous people or people I perceive who have power have a louder voice. And now I want that. And it's like, no, you're just jealous. That's what it was. It wasn't that was the issue. Then everyone should be verified. Then no one is verified. It's the same fucking thing.
Yep. It's like, if you have a valid ID, just verify you.
Yeah.
And then don't charge anything. Then, you know what? Then everything's fair.
Well, then you have to have an extensive system to make sure that, like, people aren't impersonating other people.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's going to cost a lot more fucking money than just verifying one account after you. Because if you have to go through the process of, like, verification, like, you have to submit certain documents for things. Like, it's harder now than it was before. But you have to submit people trying to impersonate you, like other accounts that are being you, like all of those different things, and, like, verify all of these things about you. Now are we going to do that for every single one? Because that's going to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
I hate him.
All right. That's it.
That is it. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to this episode of But Am I Wrong? And if you're like, watch, I only listened. Patreon. We hope you enjoyed. If you want to write in for our But Are You Wrong segment, do it. butamiwrongpod@gmail.com. And again, voting goes up tomorrow on the Instagram, Meghan and Melisa. That's what it's called. And follow us everywhere. TikTok, our Instagram, our individual Instagrams, our own socials. And if you're still listening, go comment. Who's your Rachel of the week? It can be, you pick pop culture, but also if it's just like some bitch in your biology class, say this bitch in my biology class.
Exactly.
Don't give first and last name. Don't dox them.
Unless you're about that life.
And if you can take the smoke, go for it. Because we don't know where you live. We're not going to be able to help you.
No.
And I don't answer my texts very quickly.
I mean, there might be a text in a thread that I'm having other conversations about and missed that one all together.
Yeah, like when I asked for the gluten-free pizza crust recipe.
Sorry.
Stay tuned tomorrow for the result of last week, and we will circle back. Bye. But Am I Wrong is a production by me, Megan Rinks.
And me, Melissa DeMonts, plus Diamond Imprint Productions.
Post-production by Coco Lorenz.
And production assistance by Melanie D. Watson.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys, it's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests who share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences.
Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out Real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone, so we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural then and now.